Israel and Iran traded strikes for the first time since a ceasefire was agreed in April. That's where we're starting the 7 from the Washington Post. I'm Hannah Jewell. It's Monday, June 8th. Let's get you caught up with today's 7 stories. In recent weeks, both Iran and the U.S. have signaled they are close on a deal to end their 100-day war. But a new exchange of fire between Israel and Iran is complicating those negotiations. Yesterday, Israel launched new strikes on the suburbs of Lebanon's capital, Beirut. Lebanon's health ministry said 2 people were killed and 20 injured. Then Iran fired a barrage of missiles toward Israel. It's the first time it's done so since a temporary ceasefire took effect in April. Israel said it had intercepted all the missiles. This morning, both sides continued to fire at each other. The Israeli military said its air force had hit a petrochemical plant and military targets across Iran. Those strikes came in apparent defiance of President Donald Trump. Earlier yesterday, Trump told Axios that he planned to call Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and urge him not to retaliate for the Iranian attack. Iran has repeatedly said that Israeli strikes on Lebanon must stop as a condition for any ceasefire deal it signs with Trump. An agent who sent models to Jeffrey Epstein is trying to explain why he did it. That's number 2. When the Justice Department released millions of documents from its investigation into Epstein, it exposed the late sex offender's cozy relationships with high-profile and powerful associates. But a review of the files by the Post also reveals how Epstein cultivated a network of lesser-known associates, including many from the modeling industry who offered to bring women into his orbit. Among them was Ramzi El-Khoury, a former New York City agent. He sent more than 100 emails to Epstein, starting in 2009, when Epstein was released from jail. The men discussed potential meetings with at least 24 women. In an interview with The Post, El-Khoury explained that he hoped to capitalize on Epstein's connections in the fashion industry. He denies doing anything illegal and says the women were all adults. Number 3. President Trump walked out of a Meet the Press interview after being challenged on false claims. Yesterday, NBC aired an interview with the president, which was filmed on Friday ahead of an event in Wisconsin. The interview did not go well. Trump became agitated when host Kristen Welker asked him about the $1.8 billion fund he has sought to pay people who claim they were targeted by the Justice Department. Welker pressed Trump on whether people who pleaded guilty to assaulting police officers during the 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol would be eligible for money. Trump declined to rule it out, arguing that FBI agents invited the rioters inside the Capitol. Welker pointed out that there is no evidence of that. Trump then alleged that the 2020 presidential election and last week's California primary were rigged. Welker said there was no evidence to support those claims either. Trump then turned to attacking NBC.
That's how they vote in California.
They're crooked, just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
To be fair, I'm not crooked, but let's
Really?
Let's
Well,
continue.
you play right into their hands.
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid.
Let's
you play
continue.
right into their hands. With
Then Trump called off the interview, stood up, and walked off the set.
Networks. All right, let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat in the rain with you.
I know. I
I've sat in the
traveled
rain
all the
with
way
you
to
for an
Wisconsin.
hour, on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time.
After the broadcast, Welker said the president had agreed to sit down with her for another interview. Visa troubles and anxiety over ICE are casting a shadow over the World Cup. That's number 4. Millions of soccer fans are expected to crowd into U.S. stadiums, bars, and restaurants to cheer on the 48 nations competing in the World Cup. But as the tournament kicks off this week, it has emerged as the latest battleground over immigration. Fans from countries that require U.S. travel visas say they are facing unnecessary complications in obtaining the proper paperwork. In some cases, they have given up on trying to watch the games in person. And some fans who live in the U.S. are wary that ICE will carry out arrests at stadiums during the World Cup. Tournament organizers have said federal officers will be present, but won't be conducting broad immigration sweeps around the matches. But Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin has not ruled out enforcement actions involving people suspected of criminal activity. That has raised questions about how officers will operate in the vicinity of World Cup venues. Number 5. As El Niño develops, one city is getting beach weather during winter. The city of Lima in Peru is normally cooler in May and June as the southern hemisphere's winter sets in. But this year, it's getting warmer. People are flocking to the beach as temperatures hit 80 degrees and ocean waters are nearly 10 degrees Fahrenheit above average. Yesterday, Lima experienced coastal flooding as the warmer temperatures led to rising sea levels. This extreme weather points to a developing El Niño climate pattern. According to the latest modeling, it could be the strongest one on record. The potential impacts of such an El Niño could be wide-ranging. It might lead to everything from droughts in the Caribbean to increased typhoon and hurricane activity in the Pacific. For more detail on the impacts, click the link to our newsletter. You can find that where it always is, in our show notes. You probably need to stop drinking coffee a lot earlier than you think. That's number 6. If you love coffee, but also love sleep, doctor and Post columnist Tricia Pasricha has some advice. In a study, people who drank 1 or more cups of coffee each day lost on average 36 minutes of sleep compared to those who didn't over a 2-week period. But there's a catch. People who were assigned to drinking coffee in the study were also more active, taking an average of 1,000 more steps. That's good for you and could help you live longer. So, how do you find a balance? I've heard from many of you that you like to listen to The 7 while drinking your first cup of coffee of the day. Don't worry, you can keep drinking that cup. Things get tricky, though, if you like to partake in the afternoon. Other research says that for the best night's sleep, you need to finish drinking coffee at least 9 hours or so before you sleep, which might be around 1 p.m. Of course, some very glamorous people can have an espresso after dinner at 10 p.m. and still have a beautiful night's sleep. That comes down to genetics, or perhaps being Italian. But if that's not you, stop kidding yourself and just say no to that afternoon cup. And at number 7, a record die-off of sea stars was followed by something that stunned biologists. A decade ago, a mysterious wasting disease wiped out 90% of the sea star population on the west coast of the U.S. Marine biologists observed the usually resilient ochre sea stars developing twisted arms and lesions and even liquefying. Tide pools emptied in Oregon and beyond. Last summer, scientists studying a different kind of sea star linked the mass extinction to a strain of bacteria that once decimated scallops on the East Coast. But now there are signs of hope. Ochre sea stars are undergoing a baby boom. Teeny tiny stars are appearing in tide pools, something researchers never used to see before the die-off. Scientists have no idea why it's happening, or what warming oceans and the coming El Niño could mean for the species. But they think this new generation could be resistant to the disease, and that could be good news for the coastal ecosystem. All right, you're all caught up. If you want to see what a baby sea star looks like, and you do, make sure you head over to our newsletter today. Once again, you can find a link to that in our show notes, or just Google the 7 Morning Briefing from the Washington Post. I'm Hannah Jewell. I'll meet you back here tomorrow.